The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not explicitly define electrical panel grouping based on physical proximity on the same wall. However, Section 230.71 of the NEC provides guidelines on grouping service equipment, which includes electrical panels. According to NEC 230.71, service equipment, which includes electrical panels, can be assembled together or installed separately. If grouped, they must be in the same area and readily accessible. The NEC doesn't specify a precise distance for grouping panels, but mandates they be grouped as close together as practicable. Several factors determine whether the configuration adheres to the NEC and any local amendments. Firstly, the number of service disconnects. NEC 230.71 limits the number of service disconnects to 6 for each service. If the setup exceeds this limit, it violates the code. Secondly, accessibility. NEC 230.72c requires sufficient access and working space around electrical equipment. Obstructions hindering access or creating unsafe working conditions violate this rule. Thirdly, local amendments. Local jurisdictions often have amendments or interpretations that exceed the NEC minimum requirements. Compliance with these local rules is essential for passing inspection. Here's a breakdown of how to interpret and apply these guidelines. Consider the 6 disconnect rule. This is a fundamental aspect of service equipment installations. The NEC allows a maximum of 6 service disconnects for each service. If there are more than 6 disconnects, it typically violates NEC 230.71a. Each main breaker or switch that disconnects power to a load counts as a service disconnect. Assess accessibility and working space. Evaluate the accessibility of each panel and disconnect. The NEC mandates adequate working space around electrical equipment as detailed in NEC 110.26. Firstly, depth of working space. The depth of the working space in front of electrical equipment should conform to NEC 110.26a, which depends on the voltage to ground and the condition of the installation. For example, for equipment operating at 150 volts to ground or less, the minimum clear depth of working space is 3 feet where there are exposed live parts on one side and no live or grounded parts on the other side of the working space, or where exposed live parts are on both sides but protected by qualified insulated materials. Secondly, width of working space. The width of the working space should be the width of the equipment, or 30 inches, whichever is greater, as per NEC 110.26 ATWO. This width allows personnel to safely maneuver and perform tasks. Thirdly, height of working space. The height of the working space should extend from the grade, floor, or platform to a height of 6.5 feet or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater, according to NEC 110.26 A3. This ensures sufficient headroom for workers. Understand local amendments and interpretations. Local jurisdictions may adopt, modify, or add to the NEC requirements. Contact the local building department or electrical inspector to clarify local rules for electrical panel grouping and service equipment. Common local amendments include, firstly, stricter distance requirements. Some jurisdictions may specify the maximum distance between grouped panels. Secondly, additional disconnect requirements. Local codes might require additional disconnects or specific types of disconnects. Thirdly, enhanced accessibility standards. Local rules may impose stricter standards for working space and accessibility. To correctly apply these principles, consider real-world examples. Example 1 illustrates a compliant installation. Suppose 3 200 amps panels are installed side by side on the same wall, each within 2 feet of the others, and all are readily accessible with adequate working space as per NEC 110.26. The installation includes 3 service disconnects complying with the 6 disconnect rule. This setup typically meets NEC requirements. Example 2 demonstrates a non-compliant installation. Imagine 5 100 amps panels are installed along a wall, but 2 of the panels are obstructed by shelving, and 1 panel is located in a different room. This violates both the accessibility and grouping requirements of the NEC. The obstructed panels do not allow for safe working space, and the panel in another room cannot be considered grouped. Here are steps to ensure compliance. Firstly, plan the installation. Design the electrical service layout with consideration for panel grouping, accessibility, and working space. Ensure the number of service disconnects does not exceed 6. Secondly, consult local authorities. Contact the local building department or electrical inspector to confirm local requirements and interpretations. Obtain necessary permits and approvals. Thirdly, install the equipment. Install the electrical panels and related equipment according to the NEC local codes and manufacturer instructions. Ensure panels are grouped as closely as practicable and are readily accessible. Fourthly, inspection. Schedule an inspection with the local electrical inspector to verify compliance with all applicable codes and standards. Address any deficiencies identified during the inspection promptly. Other important considerations include firstly, load calculations. Perform accurate load calculations to determine the appropriate size and number of electrical panels needed for the building's electrical load. This ensures the service equipment is adequate for the demand. Secondly, surge protection. Consider installing surge protective devices, or SPDs, to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges and transients. SPD can enhance the reliability and longevity of the electrical system. Thirdly, grounding and bonding. Ensure proper grounding and bonding of all electrical equipment to minimize the risk of electrical shock and ensure the safe operation of the electrical system. Adhere to NEC Article 250 requirements for grounding and bonding. Fourthly, labeling. Label all electrical panels, circuits, and disconnects clearly and accurately. Proper labeling helps facilitate maintenance, troubleshooting, and emergency response. Fifthly, documentation. Maintain accurate documentation of the electrical installation, including panel schedules, wiring diagrams, and inspection reports. This documentation is valuable for future reference and maintenance activities. Several sections of the NEC are relevant to this topic. Firstly, NEC 230.71, maximum number of disconnects. This section limits the number of service disconnects to 6 for each service. Secondly, NEC 230.72, grouping of disconnects. This section requires service disconnects to be grouped and readily accessible. Thirdly, NEC 110.26, spaces about electrical equipment. This section specifies the working space requirements around electrical equipment. Fourthly, NEC 250, grounding and bonding. This article provides comprehensive requirements for grounding and bonding electrical systems. Finally, NEC 408, switchboards, switchgear, and panel boards. This article covers the installation and safety requirements for panel boards. For additional resources, consult the NEC Handbook. The NEC Handbook provides detailed explanations, examples, and illustrations to help clarify the requirements of the NEC. Secondly, seek training and education. Attend courses and seminars on electrical codes and standards to stay up to date with the latest requirements and best practices. Thirdly, engage with industry professionals. Network with other electricians, engineers, and inspectors to share knowledge and learn from their experiences. Common misconceptions include, firstly, proximity equals grouping. Many believe that panels on the same wall are automatically considered grouped. However, the NEC emphasizes accessibility and the number of disconnects, not just proximity. Secondly, NEC is optional. The NEC is a minimum code, and local jurisdictions can have more stringent requirements. Compliance with local codes is mandatory. Thirdly, any electrician can interpret the NEC. The NEC is complex and requires specialized knowledge and experience to interpret correctly. Consult with qualified professionals for guidance. Here are some tips for troubleshooting common issues. Firstly, verify disconnect count. Double-check the number of service disconnects to ensure compliance with NEC 230.71a. Secondly, assess accessibility. Evaluate the accessibility of each panel and disconnect, ensuring adequate working space as per NEC 110.26. Thirdly, check for local amendments. Contact the local building department to verify local requirements and interpretations. Fourthly, consult with an expert. If unsure about any aspect of the installation, consult with a qualified electrical engineer or inspector. Staying informed about updates to the NEC is critical for ensuring ongoing compliance and safety in electrical installations. The NEC is typically updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology, safety standards, and industry best practices. Keeping abreast of these changes is essential for electrical professionals to maintain competence and provide safe and reliable electrical services. Firstly, subscribe to code updates. Many organizations, such as the National Fire Protection Association or NFPA, offer subscription services that provide updates on code changes and related information. Subscribing to these services ensures timely notification of revisions to the NEC. Secondly, attend training sessions. Participate in training sessions and workshops that focus on NEC updates and revisions. These sessions often provide detailed explanations of changes and their implications for electrical installations. Thirdly, review official publications. Obtain and review the official publications of the updated NEC, including the NEC Handbook, which provides detailed commentary and examples to aid in understanding the code requirements. Fourthly, engage with industry forums. Participate in online forums, discussion groups, and professional networks where electrical professionals share insights, ask questions, and discuss code updates. Engaging with peers can provide valuable perspectives and practical knowledge. To handle specific scenarios, consider firstly multiple buildings. If a service supplies power to multiple buildings, each building typically requires its own service disconnect. Grouping panels within each building must comply with NEC 230.71 and local codes. Secondly, large commercial installations. Large commercial installations often involve complex electrical systems with multiple service disconnects and panels. Careful planning and coordination are essential to ensure compliance with the NEC and local requirements. Thirdly, renovations and additions. When renovating or adding to existing electrical systems, ensure that the new installations comply with the latest NEC requirements and local codes. Upgrading existing systems to meet current standards may be necessary. In summary, proper electrical panel grouping requires careful consideration of the NEC, local codes, and practical factors such as accessibility and working space. Consulting with qualified professionals and staying informed about code updates are essential for ensuring safe and compliant electrical installations.